Chapter 11. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ninja Hospital. Sarutobi Hiruzen promised Chiyu that he would arrange for him to live in the center of Konoha after he was discharged from the hospital, so that Chiyu would no longer be a marginal person. Now the scene was a little cold. Sarutobi Hiruzen did not speak, and Chiyu naturally had nothing to say to Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Chiyu was waiting. Chiyu did not believe that Sarutobi Hiruzen came to visit him today just to win people's hearts. Chiyu knew very well that since Sarutobi Hiruzen came to visit him in person at the ninja hospital, there must be something on him that Sarutobi Hiruzen liked, otherwise, he would just wait until he was discharged from the hospital and let him go to the Hokage building to pay him a visit, and there was only one thing on Chiyu that Sarutobi Hiruzen liked, that was his thunder breathing, being able to destroy the forest like that. The power naturally needs no further explanation. Chiyu, the destruction in the forest of Konoha was caused by you, right? As expected, Sarutobi Hiruzen began to ask about what happened that day. Chiyu understood that this was the reason why Sarutobi Hiruzen came to visit him in person today. Chiyu said with guilt, "I am very sorry, Lord Hokage. Because of my practice, Konoha suffered losses. Thanks to Lord Hokage for saving me that day, otherwise I would have been buried in the sea of fire." Sarutobi Hiruzen waved his hand and said, "There is no need to take such a small matter to heart. No matter who in Konoha is in danger, as the Hokage, I will naturally help, but Chiyu, what kind of ninjutsu did you practice that caused such great damage and put such a heavy burden on your body? If we hadn't discovered it in time, you would have been in danger at that time." Chiyu smiled bitterly and narrated, "Lord Hokage, you also know that my parents and I lived in other villages for several years. My father saved a ninja that year. There was a symbol of 3 clouds on his forehead protector, and there was a line in the middle." Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes narrowed. A defecting ninja from the hidden cloud village? Chiyu continued to deceive. At that time, the ninja was seriously injured and on the verge of death. My parents tried their best but only saved his life for half a month. In order to thank my parents and not want his own ninjutsu to be lost, the ninja taught my parents. My father couldn't use the lightning release, so he couldn't learn this ninjutsu, but my mother learned it. Although I was still young and couldn't practice it at that time, my mother still made me memorize it, because learning this ninjutsu requires mastering the changes in the form and nature of the lightning attribute chakra. Since I learned how to refine chakra, I have been practicing according to the method my parents taught me. A few months ago, I finally mastered the changes in the form and nature of the lightning attribute chakra, and then I have been trying to use that ninjutsu. I finally mastered it a few days ago, but I overdrew and passed out." Sarutobi Hiruzen was shocked beyond words. Chiyu actually mastered the changes in the form and nature of the lightning attribute chakra at this age. There is no doubt that Chiyu is definitely a genius. If Sarutobi Hiruzen knew earlier that Chiyu had mastered the changes in the form and nature of lightning chakra, he would definitely take Chiyu seriously even if this incident had not happened. There are many ninjas in the ninja world, but there are very few top ninjas with the talent that Chiyu has shown now. Chiyu will most likely become a top ninja in the future. Sarutobi Hiruzen pondered for a moment and asked, "What is the name of the ninjutsu you mastered?" Chiyu immediately replied, "Thunder-breathing sword type." Chiyu took the initiative to say, "Hokage-sama, I want to dedicate this ninjutsu to Konoha." Sarutobi Hiruzen raised his eyebrows. "Oh. Why? This ninjutsu was left to you by your parents, how about you dedicate it to Konoha?" Chiyu said sincerely, "Hokage-sama, I just said that I want to be a ninja of Konoha, so the ninjutsu I master belongs to Konoha. Although my parents left Konoha, they always considered themselves to be Konohas. A part has never changed. If they knew that I dedicated the breath of thunder to Konoha, I believe their spirits in heaven would be proud of me." Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded with great satisfaction. "Chiyu, I am very pleased that you have such awareness. Although you have lived a hard life in these years, it is obvious that you have perfectly inherited the will of fire of Konoha. Konoha will not treat you unfairly. There is no rush for ninjutsu. Let's talk about it after you are discharged from the hospital and recuperate. It's getting late, and I won't disturb you to rest. Take good care of your injuries. Only a healthy body can practice better." Sarutobi Hiruzen left with satisfaction. after Sarutobi Hiruzen left, the room returned to silence. Chiyu's eyes were dark, he wanted to hand over the breath of thunder. He had a hole in his brain to think of handing over the breath of thunder, but the situation was overwhelming, and now he was dependent on others and had no right to make a choice. However, even if the breath of thunder was handed over to Konoha, Konoha's thunder release ninja could only learn its form, but not its meaning, because although the full sword type of thunder breathing is now used with chakra, it also needs to be used with breathing. If it is not used with breathing, the power will be greatly weakened, and through this formal meeting with Sarutobi Hiruzen, Chiyu has seen Sarutobi Hiruzen clearly. He is also a person who puts strength and interests first. If you have strength or benefits, everything is easy to say. If you have nothing, Sarutobi Hiruzen will never take you seriously. What charity, kindness, and tolerance are all pretended. Chiyu took a deep breath. After handing over the thunder breathing, the next days should not be too difficult. The fact that Sarutobi Hiruzen came to the ninja hospital to visit him in person should be known to others soon. With this signal, those idiots in Konoha will curse him less openly for Sarutobi Hiruzen's sake. Next, he also wants to be a genius, so that he can gradually increase his weight in Konoha and better help him and Uzumaki Kushina not be coerced by Konoha in the future. Although he had woken up, Chiyu was still too tired. After lying down for a while, he fell asleep again. The next day, after Chiyu woke up, his body was still sore, but he could barely walk, so Chiyu left the ninja hospital directly and wanted to go back to his shabby house to rest, pack his luggage, and wait for Sarutobi Hiruzen to prepare a house for him to move. As soon as Chiyu left the ninja hospital, a ninja suddenly appeared in front of Chiyu. "Follow me." Chiyu followed the ninja and stopped in front of a house one street away from the ninja school. "This is the house that the Hokage prepared for you. The Hokage told you to go to the Hokage building to see him as soon as you recover from your injury." After the ninja handed the key to Chiyu, he used the instant body technique to leave without waiting for Chiyu to speak. Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chiyu held the key in his hand and looked at his future new home. It looked old and was an apartment. Only this room belonged to him. He didn't expect Sarutobi Hiruzen to be so efficient. He had arranged everything for him just last night. However, there didn't seem to be any other residents in this apartment. It should be that Sarutobi Hiruzen arranged it for him on purpose. After all, the villagers of Konoha hated him very much. At the same time, Chiyu wanted to laugh. He clearly said last night that the matter of ninjutsu was not urgent, but now he asked the ninja to remind him to go to the Hokage building after his injury healed. Isn't it urgent? It's obvious that the 3 words "I'm in a hurry" were written on his face. Chiyu opened the door and went in. The layout inside was very good, and it seemed that everything was complete. Chiyu sat down on the sofa, which was quite comfortable. Chiyu looked at the clock on the wall. It was already 9 o'clock in the morning. Chiyu didn't plan to go to the Hokage building today, and planned to go there in a few days. Since he was told to go to the Hokage building after his injury healed, why did he go so early if there was nothing to do? Chiyu's mind is now full of the words that Uzumaki Kushina said to him last night. Chiyu can't wait to meet Uzumaki Kushina. However, Chiyu, who hadn't showered for a few days, had a strong smell of sweat. Chiyu went back to his shabby little house and sorted out the things inside, including the exchanged standard sword. It must be said that this standard sword is really good. After being tossed around by Chiyu last time, it only has a few cuts. Chiyu packed up all the things and took them back to his new home. Then he took a shower and set off for the ninja school. The ninja school was having lunch break at this time. When Chiyu came to the classroom, he happened to see Uzumaki Kushina clenching her fists and beating someone. When Uzumaki Kushina saw Chiyu, her expression became very surprised. "Chiyu, you are discharged from the hospital." Hearing Chiyu, everyone looked at Chiyu in unison. No one knew that Chiyu was hospitalized. No one expected that Chiyu had disappeared for so many days and turned out to be in the ninja hospital, but no one would care, but instead gloat over his misfortune. Uzumaki Kushina let go of the guy she was pressing under her, trotted to Chiyu and asked, "When did you wake up?" Chiyu smiled gently and said, "After you visited me and left last night." Uzumaki Kushina widened her eyes, her face turned red, and she stuttered, Aren't you unconscious? How do you know that I went to the ninja hospital to visit you yesterday?" Chiyu glanced around with a squint. He didn't want him and Uzumaki Kushina to be looked at like monkeys. Chenyu reached out and grabbed Uzumaki Kushina's small hand. This is not the place to talk, let's talk outside. Uzumaki Kushina's already red face now looked like it was dripping with blood, her head was dizzy, and she was mechanically pulled out of the classroom by Chiyu's hand. Chiyu pulled Uzumaki Kushina to the grove behind the ninja school, and after letting go of Uzumaki Kushina's hand, he discovered that Uzumaki Kushina's face was too red, and her eyes were dull, as if she was stupid. Chiyu stretched out his hand and waved it in front of Uzumaki Kushina. Kushina, Kushina, wake up, Uzumaki. Kushina came back to her senses and saw Chiyu in front of her, and took a step back in fright. You. Uzumaki Kushina couldn't even say a complete sentence now. Chiyu laughed and explained, I was still in a coma last night, but I was conscious and could hear things. Uzumaki Kushina lowered her head slightly, and her voice was so soft that Chiyu couldn't hear it clearly if she didn't listen carefully. Is that so? Uzumaki Kushina is currently struggling with her inner thoughts. She has clearly made up her mind to be friends with Chiyu, but at this moment she can't utter a word. Uzumaki Kushina was so nervous that sweat broke out on her forehead, and wisps of white smoke floated above her head. Seeing how adorable Uzumaki Kushina was, Chiyu exhaled a breath and said to Uzumaki Kushina seriously, Kushina, I am also prepared. Uzumaki Kushina raised her head and looked at Chiyu with a confused look in her eyes, not understanding what Chiyu meant by preparation. Chiyu said with a firm look in her eyes, I also want to be your friend for life. So, Kushina, are you willing to be friends with me? Chiyu stretched out her hand to Uzumaki Kushina, waiting for her reply. Uzumaki Kushina's brain was completely down and her ears were buzzing. Uzumaki Kushina didn't make any movement, and Chiyu was not in a hurry either. She kept stretching out her hand and silently waited for Uzumaki Kushina's reply. After a few minutes, Uzumaki Kushina's downed brain finally restarted. She stretched out her little hand and held Chiyu's hand together, and whispered, well, it's a deal. We'll be friends for life. Chenyu smiled brilliantly, and Uzumaki Kushina also smiled like a flower. Both of them were very happy because they finally made their first friend. Chenyu swore in his heart that he must protect this smile. Uzumaki Kushina was still reluctant to let go at first, but after gradually letting go, she opened up and told Chenyu about her experiences of the past few days. Those little devils who had troubled Uzumaki Kushina were all beaten into rotten tomatoes by her, and Uzumaki Kushina has a new nickname in the ninja school, Blood Red Pepper. Chenyu chuckled. Uzumaki Kushina pouted and said unhappily, Chenyu, do you also think that I am very suitable for this nickname? Chenyu smiled and shook his head, of course not, I just think that Kushina you are so powerful, you can beat them all by yourself. Uzumaki Kushina proudly put her hands on her waist and said, of course. I have never lost a fight. Then Uzumaki Kushina lowered her head a little disappointed. Chenyu asked puzzledly, Kushina, what's wrong? Uzumaki Kushina pinched a handful of hair, pouted and asked, Chenyu, do you think my hair is ugly? Chenyu put her hands on Uzumaki Kushina's shoulders, looked into her eyes, and said seriously, Kushina, your hair is very beautiful, and you are very cute. You will be more beautiful in the future, so don't doubt yourself because of what others say. You are very good, no, you are the best. Uzumaki Kushina's cheeks, which had finally recovered, turned red again after Chenyu said this. She punched Chenyu's chest, turned around shyly, held her cheeks and said, I'm not as good as you say. Chenyu's face froze, and she reached out to rub her chest. It must be said that Uzumaki Kushina is really strong. Chenyu almost couldn't catch her breath when she was hit just now. At this time, the bell rang, and the afternoon class was about to begin. This time, it was Uzumaki Kushina who took the initiative to grab Chenyu's hand, turned around and gave Chenyu a playful smile. Let's go to class. Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uzumaki Kushina took Chiba's hand and entered the classroom, which stunned all the little ghosts. Chiba and Uzumaki Kushina held hands, so close that it was obvious that the two had become friends. The two people they hated the most actually became friends. They couldn't beat Uzumaki Kushina, nor could they beat Chiba. After the Blood Red Pepper and the traitor joined forces, how would they get back at each other in the future? Chiba didn't pay attention to these little ghosts, but focused on Minato Namikaze. At this time, Minato Namikaze stared at the hand held by Uzumaki Kushina and Chiba. Chiba's eyes narrowed slightly. Has Minato Namikaze fallen in love with Uzumaki Kushina now? But this time, Uzumaki Kushina will never be with you. Uzumaki Kushina blushed and pulled Chiba to her seat and sat down. The reason why she was so bold was that she wanted to tell everyone that Chiba was her friend. Masada Hayabusa came to the classroom and started the class. Chiba adjusted her state and took the class seriously. Although the lessons taught in the ninja school are very basic, the basics are often the most important. The afternoon classes passed quickly. After Masada Hayabusa left, everyone packed up and prepared to leave. Uzumaki Kushina, however, looked as if she was facing a great enemy, and looked around vigilantly. Chiyu asked curiously, "Kushina, what's wrong?" Uzumaki Kushina said seriously, "Be careful, those annoying guys will cause trouble for me every day after school." Chiyu felt sorry for Uzumaki Kushina, who was regarded as a candidate for the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and entered Konoha, but was bullied by some ignorant kids. And those Jinchuriki, who were obviously for the village, were not regarded as heroes. But were still discriminated against like that. Chiyu took the initiative to walk in front of Uzumaki Kushina and said, "I'll go in front. If they cause trouble for you, I will beat them with you." Looking at Chiyu protecting her from behind, Uzumaki Kushina felt warm in her heart. From today on, she also had friends. Chiyu took Uzumaki Kushina out of the ninja school and was not troubled. Uzumaki Kushina looked very puzzled. "They block me every day, what happened today?" Chinyu said with a smile, "Maybe Kushina, you have already defeated them." Uzumaki Kushina excitedly waved her fist. "Really? That's great. I'm so annoyed with them, finally I can have some peace and quiet." Chinyu naturally took Uzumaki Kushina's hand. "Let's go, I'll take you back." Kushina Uzumaki, who was held by the hand by Chiyu, seemed to have become a different person. She no longer spoke carelessly, but in a very low voice. Along the way, although the villagers looked at Chiyu in a very strange way, no one scolded or ridiculed him in the street. Chiyu guessed that the news that Sarutobi Hiruzen went to the ninja hospital to visit him had spread. Under the guidance of Kushina Uzumaki, Chiyu sent Kushina Uzumaki to the door of Mito Uzumaki's mansion. Chiyu let go of Kushina Uzumaki's little hand and said goodbye. "Kushina, see you tomorrow." Kushina Uzumaki ran to the door and waved her little hand at Chiyu. "See you tomorrow, Chiyu." Kushina Uzumaki jumped into the mansion, and Chiyu turned and walked towards his new home. He was in a good mood and his steps were much lighter. Kushina Uzumaki, who entered the mansion, saw Mito Uzumaki sitting on a chair, and Kushina Uzumaki happily called out, "Grandma Mito, I'm back." Uzumaki Kushina suddenly threw herself into Uzumaki Mito's arms. Uzumaki Mito lovingly stroked Uzumaki Kushina's red hair. "Why are you so happy today? Let me guess, Chiyu was discharged from the hospital and became friends with you, right?" Uzumaki Kushina shyly buried her head in Uzumaki Mito's arms and said in a muffled voice, "Yeah." Uzumaki Mito smiled with relief and said, "Tell Grandma Mito how you became friends." Uzumaki Kushina told Uzumaki Mito this process. Uzumaki Mito's expression became more and more doting. "So it was Chiba who took the initiative. Since you have agreed to be lifelong friends, you two must always be good to each other." Uzumaki Kushina nodded firmly and said, "Yes, I will." In the next few days, Chiba and Uzumaki Kushina were almost inseparable. They went to school and went home together every day. Moreover, the relationship between the two became deeper and deeper, and they could talk about anything. 3 days later, after sending Uzumaki Kushina back to Uzumaki Mito's mansion after school, Chiba came to the Hokage building. He had promised Sarutobi Hiruzen that he would give the breathing of thunder to Konoha, and now was the time. If Sarutobi Hiruzen waited too long, it would be troublesome. Chiba entered the Hokage building. In an instant, some strange eyes fell on Chiba. Chiba walked forward as if he had seen nothing, and came to the door of the Hokage's office on the second floor without any obstruction and knocked on the door. It seemed that Sarutobi Hiruzen had already greeted him in advance. "Please come in." Sarutobi Hiruzen's voice came from the office. Chiyu pushed open the door and entered the office. Sarutobi Hiruzen saw Chiyu, smiled and said to Chiyu, "Chiyu, are you healed?" Chiyu said gratefully, "Thanks to Lord Hokage, my injuries are all healed now." Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. It's good that your injuries are healed. Chiyu, what do you want to talk to me about? Chiyu complained in his heart, isn't this asking knowingly? Did he come to talk to him? Chiyu took out a scroll and respectfully presented it to Sarutobi Hiruzen with both hands. Lord Hokage, this is the practice method of the full sword type of thunder breathing, the ninjutsu that I practiced. I recorded it on a scroll so that people in the future can learn it. Sarutobi Hiruzen took the scroll and opened it. The training method was recorded in great detail, for example, lightning breathing, first form, thunderbolt flash. You need to use lightning chakra to activate the legs and hands, and wrap the lightning chakra around the weapon, and then burst it out with one last breath. Sarutobi Hiruzen asked, to wrap the lightning chakra around the weapon, does it need a weapon made of chakra metal? Senju shook his head and said, you only need to change the form of the lightning chakra and wrap it around the weapon. Of course, if you use a weapon made of chakra metal, it will be better, and the power will be much greater. Sarutobi Hiruzen smoked while looking at the training method on the scroll. The more Sarutobi Hiruzen read, the more shocked he was. This is not a ninjutsu, but a ninjutsu. Some basic characteristics of ninjutsu are, first, you need to refine chakra, second, you can launch it without making hand seals, and third, the attack method is physical skills. This thunder-breathing sword type fully meets the characteristics of ninjutsu, and it can be passed down as a secret technique passed down from generation to generation in the clan. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the thunder-breathing sword type that Chiyu gave him. For this thunder-breathing sword type, it was no longer a question of whether he was satisfied or not, but a surprise. But from the perspective of Sarutobi Hiruzen, a ninjutsu doctor, the power of the first 5 of the 7 thunder-breathing sword types can only reach the level of B-level ninjutsu at most, and only the last 2 sword types, the land type and the 7 type, can reach the level of A-level. If the entire set of thunder-breathing sword types is evaluated, it can reach the level of A-level, but this is enough to surprise Sarutobi Hiruzen, because this is a complete set of ninjutsu. It is very precious. Sarutobi Hiruzen put away the scroll and looked at Chiyu with satisfaction. Chiyu, on behalf of Konoha, I am very grateful for your contribution of this thunder-breathing sword type. What reward do you want? Chiyu shook his head and said, this is what I should do. I am honored to contribute to Konoha. This is my reward. Sarutobi Hiruzen is now more and more satisfied with Chiyu. Chiyu's talent is beyond doubt. Not only does he master the changes in the form and nature of the lightning chakra, he also masters the full set of lightning breathing and full sword form. As long as he grows step by step, it should be a foregone conclusion that he will become a jonin. The most important thing is that Chiyu is very loyal to Konoha, and he directly contributed this set of A-level ninjutsu without reservation. Originally, Sarutobi Hiruzen thought that Chiyu still had some resentment towards Konoha, but now it seems not. Otherwise, Chiyu would not have had to contribute the entire set of A-level ninjutsu. Sarutobi Hiruzen thinks Chiyu is a promising talent and can train Chiyu well in the future. Moreover, Chiyu has half of the Uchiha bloodline in his body. With this identity, Chiyu may be able to play a special role in the Uchiha clan in the future. Sarutobi Hiruzen walked in front of Chiyu, patted Chiyu on the shoulder and encouraged him. Chiyu, you must ensure your own safety when practicing in the future. Work hard and don't let me down. Chiyu lowered his head slightly, with a strange expression. Does Sarutobi Hiruzen mean to reuse him? That's great. The more Sarutobi Hiruzen uses him, the more smoothly Chiyu can carry out his plan. Chiyu raised his head, looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with burning eyes, and said, I will definitely not disappoint the Hokage. After Sarutobi Hiruzen encouraged Chiyu a few more words, Chiyu said goodbye and left. Chiyu breathed a sigh of relief after leaving the Hokage building. For a long time to come, Chiyu basically had nothing to do except practice. After all, Konoha, which is now in a peaceful period, will not have any important events, and it is impossible to get any witness points. Now Chiyu is a veritable pauper, with no witness points on him. Chiyu almost suspected that the system was intentional. A standard katana has 10 witness points, and then replenishing chakra once is 30 points. After replenishing 3 times, it is exactly 100 witness points. Chiyu took a deep breath, looked at the sunset sun, and still had to work hard to become stronger. 5 days later, ninja school is not going to school today. Yesterday Chiyu and Uzumaki Kushina agreed to go to the place where Chiyu practiced before today, because Chiyu mentioned yesterday that the place where he practiced before had a great view, especially now that it was the season for cherry blossoms to bloom. Cherry blossom petals were falling everywhere on the streets. The time they agreed to meet was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Uzumaki Kushina was extremely excited for her first time going out to play. After having lunch with Uzumaki Mito at noon, she went out immediately. Uzumaki Kushina planned to reach the meeting place before Chiyu, and then hide to scare Chiyu. Uzumaki Kushina ran towards the meeting place happily, looking at the blooming cherry trees around. Uzumaki Kushina smiled, imagining the scene of walking with Chiyu under the cherry blossom rain later. Suddenly, Uzumaki Kushina stopped, the smile on her face disappeared, and she looked ahead angrily. There was a person standing next to the cherry tree in front. That person was the kid who had always troubled Uzumaki Kushina when she was in the ninja school. The kid also stared at Uzumaki Kushina with an expression that said, "I'm going to trouble you today." From behind the little ghost, a boy who was a head taller than him appeared, and this boy was wearing a forehead protector. He was a genin from Konoha. The genin put his hand on the little ghost's shoulder, and the two of them smiled evilly at Uzumaki Kushina. The genin crossed his arms and walked towards Uzumaki Kushina. "It's you, always making my brother cry." Uzumaki Kushina pointed at the little ghost and argued, "It's always him who provokes me. He's obviously a coward." The genin looked at the little ghost, and the little ghost turned his head away guiltily. The genin looked at Uzumaki Kushina again, pointed at his forehead protector and said proudly, "I'm a genin, very powerful, right? The bad guys who bully my brother, I have to teach them a lesson." That the genin pinched his fingers, making a click sound. Uzumaki Kushina's eyes condensed, and without any hesitation, she jumped onto the tree and ran forward. The genin immediately followed and chased Uzumaki Kushina relentlessly. The genin threw a kunai directly at Uzumaki Kushina, and the kunai pierced Kushina's side and nailed to the tree. Uzumaki Kushina was shocked. She didn't expect that this genin would actually use a kunai on him, and it was a real kunai. Uzumaki Kushina jumped onto the tree trunk in front of her, exerted force with both feet, and took the initiative to rush towards the genin. The genin didn't expect Uzumaki Kushina to fight him head-on. He was caught off guard and was hit by Uzumaki Kushina's fist and fell to the ground. Before Uzumaki Kushina could breathe a sigh of relief, a burst of white smoke came out of the genin's body and turned into a wooden stake. It was a substitution technique. The genin landed behind Uzumaki Kushina, hit Uzumaki Kushina's neck with a hand knife, and then kicked Uzumaki Kushina in the back, kicking Uzumaki Kushina to the ground. The genin grabbed Kushina Uzumaki's hair and lifted her up. Kushina Uzumaki cried out in pain and said sarcastically, "You didn't even notice the substitution technique? You're still just a brat. It's so red and as hard as a thread. This hair is really an eyesore." That the brat also laughed at Kushina Uzumaki. "Ha ha ha, you deserve it." Kushina Uzumaki sobbed. When Chiyu came here, she saw Kushina Uzumaki being grabbed by the hair and crying. Chiyu's brain was roaring, and an extreme anger rushed to his forehead. The kid spotted Chinyu not far away, pointed at him and said, "Brother, that traitor showed up, and he's with this guy." The genin twisted his neck and grinned, "Then let's teach this traitor a lesson as well. I've always wanted to do this." Uzumaki Kushina saw Chinyu and shouted at him, "Chinyu, run." Chinyu's brain had almost lost its mind at this time. The standard katana with many notches in his hand was already in his hand. At the same time, he slightly arched his body, and lightning began to flash on Chinyu's body. Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Uzumaki Kushina being bullied and shedding tears, Chiyu's blood rushed to his brain like crazy. He had sworn to protect Uzumaki Kushina's smile. Chiyu's eyes were bloodshot, and he slightly bent his body to concentrate the lightning chakra. The genin who looked down on Chiyu at the beginning, saw the lightning flashing on Chiyu's body, and his face suddenly changed. As a genin, he has only learned one sea-level ninjutsu so far, and the sight of Chiyu's body full of lightning and thunder showed that this ninjutsu was of a very high level. The genin didn't dare to be arrogant now, and let go of Uzumaki Kushina's hair, and quickly formed seals with both hands. Earth escape. rock pillar spear. A sharp earth spike stabbed upward from the ground, but the earth spike was too slow, and there was only one, so Chinyu dodged it with a step back. Chinyu pushed open the sword guard with his left thumb and slightly unsheathed the sword. Breathing of thunder, Type 1 Thunderbolt Flash. As soon as the word flash fell, Chinyu turned into a flash of lightning and rushed straight towards the genin. The genin first heard the roar of thunder, then a flash of blue light passed through his eyes, and finally, the ninja suddenly spurted out a mouthful of blood and fell straight to the ground. Brother, that the little ghost widened his eyes in shock. How could his brother suddenly lie on the ground, spitting blood? Suddenly, the little ghost heard crackling thunder from behind him. The little ghost turned his head stiffly and found that Chinyu had already picked up Uzumaki Kushina. Looking at him with bloodshot eyes, the little ghost's pupils shrank suddenly, and his whole body felt as if he fell into an ice cellar and couldn't stop shivering. He took a few steps back and sat on the ground. The genin also looked at Chinyu in disbelief. Chinyu used the back of the knife to cut him, but his chest was now sunken and his ribs were obviously broken. He stabbed several of them, and the characteristics of the lightning chakra made his body numb. He is obviously just a kid who is still in ninja school and not even a ninja. Why does he master such a powerful ninjutsu? Uzumaki Kushina, who was in Chiyu's arms, stared at Chiyu's face in a daze. Chiyu's current appearance was extremely terrifying in the eyes of the genin and the kid, but in Uzumaki Kushina's eyes, he was very handsome. Uzumaki Kushina's heart was beating wildly, and an inexplicable feeling was growing in her heart. Chiyu said in a low voice, "Kushina, wait for me here." After Chiyu gently put Uzumaki Kushina on the ground, he pulled out the sheathed sword again, and walked towards the genin and the kid who were vomiting blood with murderous intent. The genin and the kid kept moving their bodies backwards in fear. "You, what do you want to do? The village rules prohibit you from attacking your companions." Chinyu's expression was extremely ferocious. "You can't attack your companions? Then what were you doing just now?" "Don't worry, I won't kill you, I will break all your limbs." Just as Chinyu was about to take action, a kunai came straight at Chinyu. Chinyu directly swung the knife to knock off the kunai. Chinyu looked in the direction where the kunai came from. Namikaze Minato stood on the tree trunk and said to Chinyu, "Stop it, Chinyu, they have been punished." Chinyu asked with a gloomy face, "Have you been watching here?" Minato Namikaze was stunned for a moment and didn't say anything. He had indeed been watching here. Minato Namikaze saw Kushina Uzumaki running towards here, so Minato Namikaze followed. Minato Namikaze had a good impression of Kushina Uzumaki and had always wanted to get to know her. But Minato Namikaze didn't expect that Kushina Uzumaki would be attacked by a genin. Although that kid had been looking for trouble with Kushina Uzumaki in the ninja school, Kushina Uzumaki always beat him up. At that time, Minato Namikaze, who was a classmate, did not help that kid. So this time, Kushina Uzumaki was retaliated by the little devil and his brother, and Minato Namikaze didn't know whether to help. In the ninja school, Minato Namikaze got along well with everyone. Minato Namikaze felt that he didn't help the little devil when he was beaten up by Kushina Uzumaki before, but it's not good to help Kushina Uzumaki now. Seeing that Minato Namikaze didn't say anything, Chiyu sneered, "So you have been here all the time, you saw Kushina being bullied, you turned a blind eye, and now I'm retaliating against them but you helped them." Minato Namikaze, "You are really great." Minato Namikaze hurriedly explained, "No, it's not like that." Chiyu pointed to the kunai on the ground. "No, what? You took out the real kunai and shot it at me. Tell me, what are you like?" Minato Namikaze's heart tightened. "This kunai is not mine, it's the kunai he used to attack Kushina Uzumaki and nailed it to the tree just now." Chiyu's already gloomy and ferocious face became even more angry. "Used a real kunai to shoot at Kushina." Chinyu turned the sword. The back of the sword was facing outwards just now the blade is facing outwards. "I'm going to chop off all your hands and feet." Chiyu exerted force with his feet and instantly jumped towards the imps and genin who were looking at him in horror. Minato Namikaze's scalp numbed, and he thought to himself, "Oh no, Chiyu is really serious this time," so he immediately rushed towards Chiyu. After picking up the kunai from the ground, Minato Namikaze blocked Chiyu's katana that was about to chop off the genin's left leg. The genin was so scared that tears came out. If Minato Namikaze hadn't helped him block it, his leg would have been chopped off by Chiyu's sword. Minato Namikaze tried to persuade Chiyu, "Chiyu, if you cut off their hands and feet, you will also be punished, Chiyu, with bloodshot eyes, said in a deep voice, so what? They were the ones who shot kunai at Kushina first, so who can I blame for cutting off their hands and feet? And Minato Namikaze, since you saw them shooting kunai at Kushina but were indifferent, why are you pretending to be a good person here now? I say it again, if you want to watch, get out of here and don't bother me. If you want to help them, I'll chop you down too, Namikaze Minato growled, Chiyu. Calm down. After all, they are companions from the same village, Chiyu sneered, Namikaze Minato, you are really hypocritical. They are your companions, but Kushina is not, right? Since you want to help them, that's your own choice. Thunder-breathing Type 2 Rice Soul, in an instant, Chiyu slashed out 5 consecutive attacks in the shape of lightning. Minato Namikaze's hair stood on end, and his top reaction speed allowed him to roll backwards and avoid Chiyu's 5 consecutive attacks. Minato Namikaze stood up from the ground. When Chiyu used Thunderbolt Flash before, he noticed that Chiyu's speed was very fast, and it was almost impossible to catch Chiyu's figure with the naked eye. Now when he really faced Chiyu, Minato Namikaze really realized how fast Chiyu was. Chapter 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Namikaze Minato dodged Chiba's Rice Soul. Chiba's speed made Namikaze Minato extremely difficult. Namikaze Minato did not expect Chiba to be so strong. Chiba was obviously suppressed by him in the ninja school before. Chiba was also a little surprised that Namikaze Minato could dodge his slash now. As expected, he is a man who can learn the Flying Thunder God technique in the future. His reaction speed is really fast, but Chiba was just a little surprised. Namikaze Minato is still in the growth period, and so is he. Chiba is very confident that if he is at the peak, his thunder breathing will not be slower than Namikaze Minato's speed. Uzumaki Kushina was extremely anxious. She did not expect things to become so troublesome. Uzumaki Kushina was very moved that Chiba fought with the 2 people who bullied her and Namikaze Minato to protect her, but she was also worried that Chiba would be punished for this. Uzumaki Kushina shouted to Chiba, Chiba, I'm fine. Chiba held the sword tightly and whispered, I swore from that day on I must protect your smile, but after just a few days, I broke my promise. Chiba turned to look at Uzumaki Kushina, I will never forgive anyone who hurt you. Never. Chiyu. Looking at Chiyu's back, Uzumaki Kushina's eyes were red, and she was muttering to herself. Chiyu looked at Minato Namikaze again, and sheathed the katana in her hand. Minato Namikaze tightly grasped the kunai. He didn't think Chiyu sheathed the katana to stop, but more like a starting move. Thunder breathing Type 3 gathering mosquitoes into thunder. Shinyu spun around Minato Namikaze at high speed, leaving wavy blue lightning in its own trajectory. Due to the existence of these wavy blue lightning, Minato Namikaze could not retreat and escape. Once he retreated, he would inevitably touch these lightning. Shinyu kept slashing at Minato Namikaze. Shinyu's speed was very fast, and the slash was also very heavy. It was already quite difficult for Minato Namikaze to resist. Coupled with the characteristics of the lightning chakra, Minato Namikaze's body gradually began to numb. The paralysis of the body slowed down Minato Namikaze's reaction speed. Minato Namikaze judged that he would not be able to block Chinyu's next slash. Minato Namikaze tried his best to raise his right hand, but it was still useless. Seeing that Chinyu's slash was about to fall on Minato Namikaze's arm, suddenly a tall figure fell behind Minato Namikaze. Ninjutsu, Needle Jizo. A ball of white hair wrapped around Minato Namikaze. Chiyu's katana landed on the white hair, and it actually made a ding sound, and Chiyu's katana broke into 2 pieces. Looking at the figure in front of him, Chiyu's eyes condensed. One of the 3 ninjas, Jiraiya. Jiraiya released his needle Jizo and scratched his hair. Oh my, what happened? I just returned to the village and saw such a scene. Seeing Jiraiya coming back, Minato Namikaze was very excited. Lord Jiraiya. Jiraiya looked at Minato Namikaze beside him and asked, Minato, what happened? Minato Namikaze hesitantly said, we are classmates, and we just had a little conflict. Jiraiya also set his sights on Chiyu's broken katana. This is not like an ordinary little conflict. Although the little guy saw that you couldn't resist and turned to use the back of the knife, if it fell on your arm would definitely be broken. However, what Jiraiya and Minato Namikaze did not expect was that Chiyu suddenly used the broken sword in his hand and shot it at the left leg of the genin, who was completely frightened. Another figure landed in front of the genin and punched the ground. The powerful impact blew away the broken blade thrown by Chiyu. Tsunade, one of the three ninjas, appeared. Tsunade crossed her arms and looked at Chiyu with a frown. "Kid, you're going too far." Jiraiya asked seriously, "Why do you have to be so heavy-handed towards a fellow villager?" Chiyu asked coldly, "Companion?" As a genin, when he shot the real kunai at Kushina, did he regard Kushina as a companion? And you, Minato Namikaze, you clearly saw everything. You saw with your own eyes that the real kunai was shot at Kushina. You had no intention of helping, but when you shot the real kunai that was shot at Kushina at me, did you regard me as a companion? Jiraiya asked Minato Namikaze, "Minato, what's going on?" Namikaze Minato told Jiraiya what happened, and explained that because Chiyu had already fractured the sternum of the genin, Chiyu wanted to break their limbs, and he had no choice but to shoot Chiyu with the real kunai. After learning the whole story, Jiraiya felt that Namikaze Minato did nothing wrong. Jiraiya stared at Chiyu and said, "You have already punished them, and you still want to break their limbs. Don't you think you've gone too far?" Uzumaki Kushina ran in front of Chiyu and opened her hands to block Chiyu. "It's obviously them who went too far, why blame only Chiyu?" Chiyu pulled Uzumaki Kushina behind him, looked at Jiraiya and sneered sarcastically, "Too much? What if the real kunai really hurt Kushina? Do you still think I've gone too far? By the way, you will not think it is excessive, because Kushina came to Konoha from another village, and I have a pair of traitorous parents, so in your eyes, they are companions, not us, right?" Jiraiya was choked by Chiba's words and touched his nose. "I didn't say that." Tsunade looked at Uzumaki Kushina in surprise. "What's your name?" When Uzumaki Kushina came to Konoha, Tsunade was not there. It should be said that Tsunade had not been there for several years. The same was true for Jiraiya. After the Second Ninja World War, Tsunade did not stay in Konoha village due to the death of her brother Nawaki and her lover, as well as suffering from hemophobia. Instead, she wandered around with Kato Dan's niece Shizune. Jiraiya continued on his journey of cultivation. Jiraiya returned to the village this time just to accept Namikaze Minato as his disciple. At the same time, he happened to meet Tsunade on the way, so he returned to Konoha with Tsunade. As the granddaughter of Uzumaki Mito, Tsunade had correspondence with Uzumaki Mito. She knew that a member of the Uzumaki clan had come to Konoha. Uzumaki Kushina's red hair and the fact that she was from another village made Tsunade think that the cute little girl in front of her might be a member of the Uzumaki clan. Uzumaki Kushina replied, "Uzumaki Kushina." Tsunade thought to herself that it was true. Tsunade said to Jiraiya, "Jiraiya, let the old man solve this matter." Jiraiya realized from Tsunade's attitude that this child named Uzumaki Kushina might be a little special, so he nodded and said, "Okay, Minato, take them to the ninja hospital." Yes. Namikaze Minato helped up the injured genin, woke up the frightened kid, and ran towards the ninja hospital. Chiba's eyes flickered. With Jiraiya and Tsunade around, he had no chance. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Namikaze Minato took away the injured genin and the frightened brat. Now only Chiba, Uzumaki Kushina, Jiraiya and Tsunade are left here. The look in Uzumaki Kushina's eyes when she looked at Jiraiya and Tsunade was full of vigilance and distrust. Now for Uzumaki Kushina, anyone who is hostile to Chiba or is hostile to Chiba is not a good person. Jiraiya said that he didn't care about it. But Tsunade was a little headache. Uzumaki Kushina is a member of her grandmother Uzumaki Mito's clan. Now she has come to Konoha. She can be said to be the only member of Uzumaki Mito's clan. Tsunade also has the blood of the Uzumaki clan in her body, so it can be said that Uzumaki Kushina is also her clan member. What's more, Tsunade knows very well why Uzumaki Kushina came to Konoha. Konoha can't protect Uzumaki Kushina too much, and the genin brat just now actually shot Uzumaki Kushina with a real kunai. Although Tsunade was very angry about the genin brat just now, she still had to take action. After all, the genin brat was from Konoha, and there was Chiba in front of her. Tsunade also knew something about Chiba. After all, the incident that year was also a hot topic. Uzumaki Mito also complained to Tsunade, "Chiba, who has half Senju clan and half Uchiha clan blood, was not recognized by the Uchiha clan and became a victim of the Uchiha clan, hated by all Konoha villagers. What surprised Tsunade was that Chiba and Uzumaki Kushina had such a good relationship. Chiba was willing to cripple the limbs of the two brats for Uzumaki Kushina. Didn't Uzumaki Kushina just come to Konoha not long ago? Could it be that the two of them had known each other for a long time? Just as Tsunade was thinking, she accidentally caught a glimpse of the blood left on the ground. Tsunade's pupils shrank and her whole body began to tremble slightly. Her hemophobia came back. Jiraiya noticed something was wrong with Tsunade and immediately stood in front of her, blocking her view. Jiraiya said to Tsunade, "I'll take these two kids to see the old man. Tsunade, you go and rest." Tsunade took a few deep breaths and forced herself to calm her heartbeat that was speeding up due to her hemophobia. "It's okay, I'll go with you to see the old man." Tsunade, who now knows the identities of Uzumaki Kushina and Chiba, decided to go with them to see Sarutobi Hiruzen. If Chiba didn't think about cutting off the limbs of the two little devils, this matter would not be a big deal, but Chiba was thinking about cutting off the limbs of the two little devils. If Sarutobi Hiruzen knew about it, Chiba would most likely be punished. Seeing that Tsunade insisted, Jiraiya didn't say anything more. He turned to Chiba and Uzumaki Kushina and said, let's go to see the old man together." Chiba suddenly said, "This matter has nothing to do with Kushina, I can go with you." Before Jiraiya could speak, Uzumaki Kushina said anxiously, "No, Chiba, I'll go with you." Uzumaki Kushina grabbed Chiba's hand, looked at Jiraiya and Tsunade warily, and said, "I'm afraid someone will say something in front of the Hokage. This matter is obviously not Chiba's fault, so I must explain it clearly to the Hokage." Chiyu sighed slightly. If Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted to punish him, no matter how much Uzumaki Kushina explained, it would be useless, but Chiyu was not worried about what punishment Sarutobi Hiruzen would impose. As long as Chiyu could play his value, the punishment would not be too severe, and he would still be fine in the future. Uzumaki Kushina wanted to say something else, but when she looked into Chiyu's eyes, she said in surprise, "Chiyu, what's wrong with your eyes?" "My eyes?" Chiyu picked up the broken blade on the ground without knowing why, and used the blade to see the appearance of his eyes clearly. Chiyu was a little surprised that he actually opened both eyes of the single Magatama Sharingan. Just now, after Tsunade appeared and blew away his broken blade, Chiyu, who knew it was over and there was no chance, relaxed his body and stopped condensing chakra, but Chinyu's eyes stung and he closed his eyes subconsciously. When he opened his eyes again, Chinyu felt that his vision became clearer. And he also felt that everything he saw seemed to be a little slowed down. Chinyu was a little nervous because of the sudden appearance of Jiraiya and Tsunade, so he didn't think about the Sharingan for a while. Chinyu didn't expect that the Sharingan would be opened accidentally this time. Jiraiya and Tsunade also looked at Chinyu's Sharingan with their mouths slightly open. Jiraiya asked in surprise, "Kid, how old are you this year?" 9 years old. "What, only 9 years old?" Jiraiya and Tsunade were very shocked. Chiyu was a little strange. Why was he so shocked? Chiyu thought about it and realized the reason. The earliest record of the Uchiha clan opening his eyes was Uchiha Sasuke. When he was 7 years old, he witnessed the extermination of the clan by Uchiha Itachi. Due to the strong mental shock, he opened the single Magatama Sharingan, but he didn't realize it at that time. Uchiha Itachi was 8 years old because his companion was killed by Uchiha Obito, so he opened the Sharingan in anger. Uchiha Shisui, the age when he opened his eyes should be about the same as Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Obito, at the age of 12, because of anger, he directly opened both eyes of the double Magatama Sharingan. Uchiha Madara, opened his Sharingan at the age of 15. Sasuke, Itachi, Shisui, and Obito are not born yet, so Chiyu may be the first person in the Uchiha clan to open his eyes. Of course, it is not ruled out that there are people in the Uchiha clan who opened their eyes earlier and have not revealed it, but opening the eyes at the age of 9 is already the first to open the eyes. That time. Now Chiyu is no longer worried about meeting Sarutobi Hiruzen later. With the Sharingan activated, his value has become higher. Chiyu felt his Sharingan a little bit. With the Sharingan activated, he was consuming chakra all the time. Because of the bloodline of the Senju clan, Chiyu still has quite a lot of chakra at this stage. although the system determines that Chiyu has 1/5 of Kakashi's chakra in the Sharingan state, but now Chiyu is just a kid who has not graduated from the ninja school, and Kakashi is an elite jonin. Even in the Sharingan state, 1/5 of the chakra should be at the level of a chunin, and the Sharingan belongs to Chiyu's bloodline limit, and there is no side effect like Kakashi. Chiyu's chakra will definitely increase in the future. Chiyu cut off the chakra supply to the Sharingan, and his eyes returned to normal black pupils. Jiraiya and Tsunade were almost shocked, and said to Chiyu and Uzumaki Kushina, "Let's go." Shinyu wanted to ask Uzumaki Kushina to go with her. After all, nothing would happen, and by then Shinyu would have to tell people what she wants to tell people, and tell ghosts what she wants to tell ghosts. It would be enough to disgust one person, and there was no need to disgust both of them, but Uzumaki Kushina grabbed Shinyu's hand and looked at Shinyu stubbornly. Shinyu sighed and said helplessly, "Then let's go together." Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chiba and Uzumaki Kushina followed Jiraiya and Tsunade to the Hokage building. Jiraiya didn't even knock on the door, but pushed it open and shouted, "Old man, Tsunade and I are back." Sarutobi Hiruzen had a kind smile on his face, took a sip of his pipe and said, "It's good to be back, it's good to be back." Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Chiba and Uzumaki Kushina behind Jiraiya and Tsunade, and said in surprise, "Chiba, Kushina, why are you here too?" Chiba glanced at the crystal ball on Sarutobi Hiruzen's desk. "I didn't see the crystal ball when I came to the Hokage's office last time." Now that the crystal ball appeared, it meant that Sarutobi Hiruzen must have been using the crystal ball to observe Konoha just now. Then, Sarutobi Hiruzen must have known the situation at that time. Now he's pretending. Chiyu took the initiative to say, "Hokage-sama, Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama brought me here to question me." Upon hearing Chiyu say, "Question me," Uzumaki Kushina got anxious first. "Hokage-sama, Chiyu did nothing wrong in this matter, he just wanted to help me." Sarutobi Hiruzen pressed his hand, "Tell me slowly, tell me what happened first." Chiyu, Jiraiya, and Tsunade narrated the whole story. Sarutobi Hiruzen put down the pipe in his hand, the kind expression on his face disappeared, and he looked at Chiyu with a serious expression. Uzumaki Kushina was about to speak for Chiyu, but Chiyu pulled her hand and stopped her. Chiyu shook her head at Uzumaki Kushina. Uzumaki Kushina looked at Chiyu with a tangled expression, her mouth moved, and finally she didn't say anything. Just when Chiyu was about to speak, Tsunade said, "Unexpectedly, old man, Chiyu knows that he was wrong in this matter, and it was also because those two brats were wrong first, and it didn't cause any big mistakes. Let's just let this matter end." Sarutobi Hiruzen stared at Chiyu and asked, "Chiyu, do you know you are wrong?" Chiyu stepped forward and said firmly, "Hokage, I don't think I am wrong." Jiraiya and Tsunade looked at Chiyu in astonishment. Chiyu was given a way out, but he didn't want it. Is he so brave? Uzumaki Kushina was also very anxious. In the situation just now, Chiyu might have admitted his mistake and the matter would have passed. Sarutobi Hiruzen's aura was fully open, and his voice became a little lower. "Don't you think you are wrong?" Chiyu said stubbornly under the pressure of Sarutobi Hiruzen. "Yes, I don't think I am wrong. I told Hokage at the beginning that I want to protect Konoha." Before Chiyu finished the next words, Sarutobi Hiruzen said, "But what you did is contrary to protecting Konoha." Chiyu argued, "I want to protect Konoha, I want to protect the people and things that should be protected, not those who attack their companions. Konoha has strict rules, you must not attack your companions, but that person has violated the rules. So I don't think I did anything wrong. A person who can bully the weak, as a genin, used a true kunai on Kushina, a student who just enrolled. I don't think there is any need to protect. This kind of person, in my eyes, is a cancer to Konoha. He is now Tion can do something to Kushina, and he can do something to others in the future. No one wants to trust such a person. Everyone says that I am a traitor, but no matter how I am abused or bullied, I have never thought of doing something to them, because in my eyes, they are companions, and I will never do something to my companions. I will use my actions to make them trust me and recognize me, so my actions are not contrary to my original intention of protecting Konoha. On the contrary, the person who betrays the trust of others and attacks his companions is the most hateful. Jiraiya and Tsunade were very surprised to hear Chiyu's words. A 9-year-old child actually has such awareness. Sarutobi Hiruzen's momentum also dissipated. Chiyu's explanation is quite powerful. Chiyu has indeed been abused and bullied in Konoha over the years, but he has never really done anything. The most important thing is that Sarutobi Hiruzen saw from the crystal ball that Chiyu opened the Sharingan. Chiyu not only has a talent in ninjutsu, but also awakened and opened the Sharingan. There has never been a person in the Uchiha clan who opened the Sharingan at this age in Sarutobi Hiruzen's memory, mastering a set of A-level ninjutsu and with half of the Uchiha clan's bloodline, he opened the Sharingan at the age of 9. This talent is quite a monster. With such a talent, it is almost certain that he will become the top ninja of Konoha in the future and can become the pillar of Konoha, and Chiyu seems to be impeccable in terms of character. Judging from his current performance, Chiyu can be regarded as loyal. Sarutobi Hiruzen pondered for a while and said, even if they did something wrong, there are Konoha police forces to enforce the law. You have no right to use lynching on them, but it is true that they were wrong first, and at the same time you wanted to help Kushina who was being bullied. So, you go home and reflect on it for 3 days, and this matter will be over. Uzumaki Kushina's expression suddenly became happy, and she immediately thanked Sarutobi Hiruzen. Thank you, Lord Hokage. Chiba also bowed and said, thank you, Lord Hokage. In Chiba's view, admitting mistakes and letting this matter pass is a choice that can only be made if there is no other way. Finding a way to make this matter prove his loyalty to Konoha is the best choice. Even if Sarutobi Hiruzen knows that he has selfish motives, what can he do? Everyone has selfish motives. As long as they don't touch Sarutobi Hiruzen's taboos, it's fine. Sarutobi Hiruzen waved his hand. Okay, you go back first. Chiba and Uzumaki Kushina left the Hokage's office hand in hand. Jiraiya looked at the backs of the two people leaving inside. The kids nowadays are really more evil than the other. They have mastered such fast ninjutsu and opened their Sharingan. Tsunade also echoed, I heard that the Uchiha clan needs strong emotional stimulation to open their eyes. Because Kushina was bullied, Chiba opened her Sharingan. It seems that Kushina is very important to Chiba. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a sip of his pipe in frustration. He wanted Jiraiya's future disciple Minato Namikaze to become a bond that Kushina Uzumaki would recognize as Konoha. Now that Chiba and Kushina Uzumaki have such a good relationship, why does it feel like Minato Namikaze has no chance? Chiba left the Hokage building and took Kushina Uzumaki back to her home. Kushina Uzumaki breathed a sigh of relief. That's great, Chiba, you only need to stay at home for 3 days and you'll be fine. Chiba asked Kushina Uzumaki to sit on the sofa and said to Kushina Uzumaki with a serious expression, Kushina, I don't want to lie to you. Uzumaki Kushina tilted her head and looked at Chiba in confusion, not understanding what Chiba had lied to her about. Jiraiya and Tsunade, who had not returned for many years, were in the Hokage's office. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen must be reminiscing with them, so he would not use the crystal ball to spy on them. So, Chiba told Uzumaki Kushina frankly, Kushina, everything I said in the Hokage's office was a lie. Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing Chiyu saying that everything she said in the Hokage's office was a lie, Uzumaki Kushina was stunned for a moment. Uzumaki Kushina asked in confusion, Chiyu, what do you mean by all the lies you said? Chiyu whispered in Uzumaki Kushina's ear, I have never thought about protecting Konoha. Konoha is a prison for me. I think you should have learned a little about my past these days, right? Uzumaki Kushina nodded with a confused head. During the days when Chiyu was hospitalized, those who made trouble for Uzumaki Kushina, while mocking her, also mocked Chiyu. Chiyu's parents were rebel ninjas of Konoha. As a child of rebel ninjas, they said that Chiyu would definitely be a traitor in the future. His mother was a member of the Uchiha clan, the largest clan in Konoha, but Chiyu was not recognized by the Uchiha clan and was a stray dog. Uzumaki Kushina could hear such words every day during those days. At that time, Uzumaki Kushina understood why Chiyu was isolated by everyone. Chinyu continued to whisper to Uzumaki Kushina, my situation in Konoha was very bad before. The reason why I can change my home now and Sarutobi Hiruzen did not punish me today is mainly because I offered him a set of ninjutsu, which can be said to be an exchange of interests. I have no feelings for Konoha, but I have to show my love for Konoha in front of Sarutobi Hiruzen, otherwise my situation will be more difficult, and Kushina, your situation is not very good either, you have to be careful too. Uzumaki Kushina said seriously with a small face, I know. Chinyu laughed and said, no, you don't know, I said your situation is not good, not those little ghosts who are looking for trouble with you. Konoha asked you to come to Konoha with a purpose. Anyone who says anything to you, you must think more, doubt more, don't believe it immediately. Chinyu is very worried that Uzumaki Kushina will be brainwashed by the will of fire. In Chinyu's eyes, this will of fire is as terrifying as a flood and a beast. Uzumaki Kushina said seriously, I understand. Chinyu sighed and said with a smile, don't be too nervous. Whatever you do now, the main thing is to improve your own strength. Don't tell anyone what I'm saying to you, including your Mito grandmother. Uzumaki Kushina nodded her little head and said firmly, I will never tell anyone. Chinyu sat beside Uzumaki Kushina and rubbed her little head. Uzumaki Kushina has become accustomed to being rubbed on the head by Chinyu from time to time, and every time she would quietly let Chinyu rub her head. However, Uzumaki Kushina's little face is now puffed up, and she said angrily, really, I had an appointment with you to go to the woods to see the cherry blossoms, all because of those guys. Now Chinyu, you have to stay at home for 3 days. The cherry blossom season is very short. When Chinyu can go out, the cherry blossoms will have already withered. Chinyu comforted, it's okay, the cherry blossoms are not only this year, next year, the year after, I will accompany you to see the cherry blossoms every year. Uzumaki Kushina raised her little finger to Chinyu, then it's an appointment. Chinyu stretched out her little finger and hooked it with Uzumaki Kushina, it's an appointment. Chinyu stayed at home for 3 days. Every day, Uzumaki Kushina would bring food to Chinyu before going to the ninja school. During the 3 days Chinyu was at home, he had been studying his Sharingan. The double-eyed single Magatama Sharingan has no special functions. It mainly plays the role of insight. The dynamic vision has become stronger, and some movements and seals can be seen clearly. The chakra consumed is not too much, within an acceptable range. The chakra consumed by the full sword type of thunder breathing, from type 1 to type 4, is also within an acceptable range. With Chinyu's current chakra, at least 3 rounds of thunder breathing can be released from type 1 to type 4. But when it comes to type 5, the chakra consumed increases exponentially. Chinyu estimates that if he wants to perform thunder breathing land type lightning thunder boom, his chakra may be directly drained, not to mention type 7, when Chinyu's system simulated thunder breathing, his meridians were so seriously injured because Chinyu forcibly performed type 7 fire thunder god, which he could not successfully perform at that time. What made Chinyu a little depressed was that the sword he bought with 10 witness points was broken. Chinyu also had no money to buy a new weapon. Chinyu was very poor now, and his money was only enough for daily meals. Chinyu suddenly felt that it was not worth wasting a sword to deal with those 2 little ghosts. If this continued, he might have to wait until Chinyu graduated from ninja school to save money to buy a new weapon. 3 days were up. Chinyu walked out of the room and walked towards Uzumaki Mito's mansion to pick up Uzumaki Kushina to go to ninja school together. When Chinyu and Uzumaki Kushina came to the classroom, all the students in the class looked at Chinyu. The news that Chinyu beat a genin into the ninja hospital had spread, and the one who told this was not Minato Namikaze, but the younger brother of that genin. The little ghost was now scared when he thought of Chinyu, and was afraid of being retaliated against later. After arriving at the ninja school, he immediately applied for a transfer. The other people in the class chased after the little ghost and asked why he transferred to another class, and the little ghost told what happened that day. Everyone found it incredible that Chinyu could beat a genin into the ninja hospital. At the same time, the people in the class also knew that Namikaze Minato was also involved. So they asked Namikaze Minato if it was true. When Namikaze Minato personally admitted that it was true, everyone was shocked and aggrieved. Chinyu, the guy who was usually insulted by them, turned out to be so strong. What if they scold him again and get sent to the ninja hospital? And Uzumaki Kushina is also protected by Chinyu now, so they can't cause trouble to Uzumaki Kushina in the future. Namikaze Minato also looked at Chinyu. Chinyu also looked at Namikaze Minato. Chinyu once thought that Namikaze Minato might be a good person, but from the last incident, Namikaze Minato is not that good, a double-standard guy. although Chiba is also hypocritical, he is honest in his hypocrisy, unlike Minato Namikaze, who refuses to admit it. Uzumaki Kushina discovered Chiba and Minato Namikaze staring at each other, and she also glared at Minato Namikaze angrily. Now, in Uzumaki Kushina's heart, Minato Namikaze has no good feelings at all, only disgust. When Minato Namikaze found that Kushina Uzumaki was glaring at him, he retracted his gaze and turned his head back. Originally, Minato Namikaze was going to become Jiraiya's apprentice after graduating early next year, but after the battle with Chiba, Minato Namikaze felt deeply that he was inadequate and weak, so he became Jiraiya's apprentice in advance. Jiraiya naturally knew that Minato Namikaze wanted to become a disciple in advance because of Chiba. With such a strong opponent, Minato Namikaze could improve faster, so after a test, Jiraiya officially accepted Minato Namikaze as his disciple. Now Minato Namikaze goes to the ninja school during the day and practices with Jiraiya at night. The direction of Minato Namikaze's practice has also been determined, that is speed. Minato Namikaze wants to become a man faster than Chiba. Chapter 20. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 years passed in a flash. Minato Namikaze graduated early at the age of 10, after receiving training from Jiraiya. Minato Namikaze fought with Chiba several times in the battle drills of the ninja school. Minato Namikaze fought with Chiba through the special training speed, but Minato Namikaze was defeated by Chiba every time. However, Chiba was surprised by the growth rate of Minato Namikaze. Every time he fought with Minato Namikaze's speed would be much faster than the last time, but Chiba was also growing. Now Chiba, who only has the full sword type of thunder breathing, is also doing special training on speed to make himself faster. After Minato Namikaze graduated early and became a genin, he continued to practice with Jiraiya. Chiba has not seen Minato Namikaze for 2 years. Although Chiba has the ability to graduate early, he did not apply. First of all, Chiba felt that there was no need to apply in advance. He was not like Minato Namikaze, who would be taught by a famous teacher after graduating early. Now is a peaceful time. Even if he graduated early, as a genin, he can only do some D-level tasks in the village. Although there is no open abuse of Chiyu in the village now, they still hate him from the bottom of their hearts. Chiyu doesn't want to do D-level tasks such as finding pets and picking up garbage. The money is very little and it's troublesome. With this time, it's better to practice for a while. After Tsunade came back to Konoha that day, she stayed for 2 days. After visiting Uzumaki Mito, she left with Shizun. Although Uzumaki Kushina saw Tsunade again in Uzumaki Mito's mansion, she didn't talk to Tsunade because the incident that Chiyu helped her made Uzumaki Kushina still feel a little bit of resentment toward Tsunade. Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato left Konoha for training, and Tsunade also left Konoha. Now only Orochimaru is left in Konoha among the 3 ninjas. Chiyu has also met Uzumaki Mito. As the wife of the first-generation Hokage of Konoha, Chiyu believes that Uzumaki Mito must be a member of the Hokage faction. Therefore, Chiyu was still a little wary of Uzumaki Mito, but Chiyu was a little puzzled by Uzumaki Mito's attitude towards him, because there was a feeling of being too enthusiastic. Uzumaki Kushina is now also learning the Uzumaki clan sealing technique from Uzumaki Mito. The fact that Chiyu opened the Sharingan was not publicized. Sarutobi Hiruzen asked Jiraiya and Tsunade to keep it secret, because if the Uchiha people knew that Chiyu opened the Sharingan, then the Uchiha clan would definitely look for Chiyu. Maybe Chiyu would return to Uchiha, and there would be a conflict with Chiyu. Now Sarutobi Hiruzen plans to train Chiyu, so it is naturally impossible for him to return to Uchiha, and now is not the time to take action against Uchiha. If the 2 sides have a conflict, he will not be able to protect Chiyu openly, so it is best to conceal the Sharingan. When Chiyu grows up, it will be a done deal and the Uchiha clan will have no way to do anything. Chiyu is also happy like this, and he is too lazy to get entangled with those Uchiha who are arrogant and look down on him. During these 3 years, Uchiha Obito, Hatake Kakashi, Noara Rin, Might Guy and others were born one after another. According to the time when Kakashi went to the battlefield at the age of 5. There are at most 2 years left in peacetime before we fall into the Cold War. Period, or even shorter, because Uzumaki Kushina will be kidnapped by 3 Kumogakure. This is when Uzumaki Kushina becomes a genin, but it is not clear when exactly. But after the kidnapping incident, local conflicts should begin to break out in the ninja world. Uzumaki Kushina is now 12 years old. Which means there are still 6 years before Uzumaki Kushina becomes an adult and will replace Uzumaki Mito as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. And Uzumaki Mito will die. There is not much time left for Chiyu, there are at most 2 years left in peacetime, and Uzumaki Kushina has 6 years to become the new Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, but the only way to quickly improve strength is on the battlefield. Now Chiyu makes full use of her evening time and trains herself rigorously, and the results are quite good. Everyone in the Uzumaki clan, a distant relative of the Senju clan, has a lot of chakra, as Chiyu has half the blood of the Senju clan. The amount of chakra in his body has also increased exponentially, and Chiyu must get enough witness points before Uzumaki Kushina becomes the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and at the same time improve his strength as much as possible. Chiyu has obtained 50 witness points in these 3 years, because Chiyu witnessed the birth of Might Guy. At that time, Chiyu had strained his muscles because he had overexerted himself during training, so he wanted to go to the ninja hospital to buy some medicine. At the ninja hospital, he happened to hear someone calling Might Guy. Out of curiosity about Might Guy, the ruthless man who killed 4 members of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Hidden Mist village by himself, Chiyu quietly followed him to take a look, and it was because of this that Chiyu coincidentally witnessed the birth of Might Guy and obtained 50 witness points. However, Chiyu could not see the birth of other people. Because they were all members of the ninja clan, Chiyu had no access to them at all. At this time, the sky was dark. In the training ground of Konoha, Chienyu was still practicing. Chienyu used 10 witness points to exchange for a long sword again. Without using chakra, he practiced swinging the sword at the wooden stake with his own strength. Sweat dripped down Chienyu's cheeks to the ground. Suddenly, a hoarse voice sounded from behind Chienyu. "You're really working hard." Chienyu felt a chill running up his spine to the top of his head. He didn't even feel the person behind him. Chienyu immediately turned around and looked. His pupils shrank, pale skin, purple eyeshadow, magatama-shaped earrings, and snake-like vertical pupils. Orochimaru, the only one of the 3 ninjas that Chienyu had never seen. Chienyu immediately adjusted his mentality, bowed slightly, and said respectfully, "Lord Orochimaru." Orochimaru crossed his arms and walked to Chienyu. "I have been observing you for many days. You are so young, but you have mastered such a powerful ninjutsu. At the same time, you have awakened the Sharingan. You are worthy of being a descendant of the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan." Chienyu raised his head, looked at Orochimaru without any timidity, and asked puzzledly, "Lord Orochimaru has been observing me for many days." Orochimaru had a smile on his face, but in Chienyu's eyes, this smile always felt like a sneer at him. "The old man seems to like you very much and wants me to accept you as my disciple." "I have no intention of accepting you as my disciple. After all, if I accept a disciple, I will be distracted from teaching. But now I am interested in you, Chienyu. I feel that we are the same kind of people, disguising ourselves and letting others see the side you want them to see. Don't refute me. The look in your eyes that you inadvertently reveal can't deceive people, but your eyes are like a snake, ready to bite anyone at any time. I quite like it." Chienyu felt his scalp tingling. He didn't expect Orochimaru to come here and actually want to accept him as his disciple.